Hey there, and welcome to another video on music appreciation. Today we're going to be talking about our final questions for this class. As you know, that this will be my final video in this class, end of this year for my second semester. Right now I'm just going to answer 5 questions to the best of my ability, and hopefully that you find this video informative in my opinions and answers and all that kind of stuff with these 5 questions. The first question is, how is classical music different from country, rock, or other types of music? Well, obviously classical music is different from all the other kinds of music because it's more harmonic. It's a lot more formal kind of music. It's like whenever you're trying to write an essay and you try to write it in a formal or professional way. Classical music, I feel like, has more finesse than many other genres of music, including country and rock. It has a lot of fundamentals to it as well. I mean, a lot of music came from classical music, and we started to have advancements in music in any other genre that we could think of, especially from like the ancient times. Whenever music started out, that would be, ancient music, and then the same thing goes for like medieval, Renaissance, Romantic, Baroque, classical, all that stuff. In chronological order, of course. But classical music itself really started to be more of a modern taste of what ancient, medieval, and Renaissance music had to offer. And that's where its fame really started to shine, and it got its recognition through that. But it's different because, basically it has a lot more fundamental use of music. I believe it's got more of a professional or even formal kind of flair to it, as I've previously said. But I do believe that it does have its downsides too. I believe it's too. Sometimes it can be too formal or too standard. It could be something that you'd listen to while doing homework or maybe even napping if you have like some sort of sleep problem. I believe classical music can help you in that. But I feel like sometimes classical music can be a little bit too formal, a little bit over the top, especially if you look into like the Romantic period as well, where they tried to dramatize every piece of music that they could possibly get their hands on. And I believe that's why classical music is different from all these other genres. The next question, though, is how does the history or periods of classical music compare to world or even European history? I believe that the comparison between the different periods of classical music and having that being compared to like world history and European history, I believe that it shows what the people of the time that the certain music came out, like ancient, medieval, Renaissance, whatever you want to start with. In this case, classical music. I believe that it showed the reflection of what people were thinking back then, music-wise. I also believe that it showed reflection of how the times were back then, even though none of us really are immortal anymore and we can't really live on until the end of time, unfortunately. But I believe that when you compare it to world history itself, it shows a story that can be summarized in just a couple of songs, whether it be a world event that took place or something that's taking place within a city or a town I believe much of the music reflects on world history, or even European history, or history of any kind, and it shows what the people were going through back then, and it tried to be clear in its presentation. Some of it's a little bit more mysterious, I believe, for shock value. Some of it's a little bit harder to translate or kind of relate to, because technology and architecture and agriculture has advanced so much since then. But I believe that comparing it to world history, it's still in the same catalyst of being history in general. But reflecting upon it, it does show stories of what was happening, what could have happened, or even stories of nonfiction, like if it was talking about a book, like a certain song talking about some sort of story, they would do that as well. But even then, even if the story is real or fictional, it still showed what people were thinking back then and how their thought process would go through in creating music. And it serves as a reminder to us of what we can learn from during that time. If we were to get more serious into music and playing classical music, we can learn from these geniuses and these composers and musicians that played during the classical, Baroque, Renaissance, medieval period, whichever you want to start playing music in. We can learn from that kind of history. The next question, though, is what classical period or composer did you like the best? And tell the teacher why. For me, I don't really have a favorite period well, actually, I do have a favorite period, but composer, I'm not really sure. I'd say my favorite classical period was probably I'd say ancient music, because ancient music for me is a little bit more surreal. It kind of gives a mystique feeling about it, as if it was something that we couldn't really comprehend, as if it was alienated from us. But I feel like with ancient music, that's where everything started. And I believe that with the music that was being, not produced, because that really wasn't a word back then, that was being, not necessarily just being made, but transformative with the different communities and all that. Because most of this music that was being made during ancient times was either about world events that took place or about certain deities or gods. And I believe that it was probably one of the more important periods of music to look back on, as it was really the period that started everything for music. I mean, even the instruments back then weren't anything like the instruments that we use today. There might be a few exceptions in there, but definitely has been a transformative period to look on as you listen to some of the music and look at some of the instruments that they used. And especially their lyrics, too, if they had lyrics. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But if you were to look back on music and see the ancient civilizations back then produce their music, you would think that it was like something out of this world. At least that's my opinion, but I don't know if everyone else would think the same way. Probably not everyone else, but maybe a few people. As for a composer, I don't really have a favorite. I believe that all of them are pretty good. If I had to say that I like someone the most, I would say that Mozart would be my top pick. Basically from his Moonlight Sonata, which is one of my favorite pieces of music. The next question that I have is, what classical period or composer did you dislike the most, and tell me why? Obviously, again, I'm not really, I really don't dislike any of the periods of music. I think they were all pretty good to learn from, and they were very interesting as well. I believe that all periods did pretty well in my eyes. I thought that all of them made pretty good music, even though some of it was kind of odd, and a little bit weird and strange, even. As for composers, same thing. I thought that they were pretty good too. Some of their background was pretty interesting, also a little bit weird as well. But I don't think there's really any period from music that I don't dislike. I feel like that they all served their purpose. I feel like that they all did a good job, and that's that on my part. I know that everyone else may not feel the same way, but that's just how I feel about it generally. And then the last question of today will be, what did you like the most about the class? I like this class the most because you get to look back on the history of music and the things that were taking place back then, whether it be politics, agriculture, architecture, painting, any other kind of music that was taking place in a certain period. You know, there was a lot of stuff going on within this class, not just with music, but with world history as a whole, as I previously said. And that's why all of it reflects with one another, whether it's from literature, music, or any kind of art piece, to reflect the culture at that time and what was taking place. I believe that this class did a good job on showing the basics on what was going on and how you could research different topics about the different periods of music. I also liked how this class was able to utilize other areas of life, especially within world history and not just with music. And I also liked that you could have the freedom to talk about other topics within the different periods of music. I thought that was pretty good too. And then finally, I also thought this class was very good at showcasing how the composers made their music and how they were able to advance music as a whole, which I thought was definitely interesting. And I thought that was a pretty good way to show that these composers and these different musicians were able to make new methods of creating music just from recollecting back to the olden times of how music was made during medieval times and even the Renaissance period. So I thought that was pretty good. And that's it for my 5 questions on this final video and this final assignment for music. A few final words too before I end this video. As you know that I said near the beginning of this video that I will be traversing from my first year into my second year of college, from my second semester of this year. I thought that my experience with the people there and everyone at Southern was able to be helping me, including the teacher in this class. I thought that it was a very good experience to kind of look at what other people were thinking and what their thought process was and how they conducted themselves. And I also believed that other people were willing to critique one another, especially myself included. I feel like that's very important for us as we get to learn and know each other a little bit from our videos that we make. Even though some of us don't talk to each other much at all, except through comments on our assignments. But I thought it was a pretty good experience. And so I hope that this video was informative. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and for the final time of this class, for me at least, I will see you all later. Take care.